going on, everyone? Jack here from Half Chrome, and today you can see I've got some new sunglasses for my Mini 3. We've got some ND filters. So I'm going to show you how to install the ND filters on the Mini 3 Pro, and we're going to talk about why you want them and how to use them. Stay tuned. Okay, so I have two different sets of filters here from Freewell. These are standard ND filters. This is their all-day pack. You get 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and 1000. And I also have their circular polarized ND filters. And I have the 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and then just a standard polarized filter. You can see I put my old glass here. It fits right inside of the circular polarized filters, but actually annoyingly it does not fit. If I take it out here and replace it here, it's just a little thick. So I'm going to talk to Freewell about fixing that, because that's just moderately annoying. They also sent me a UV filter. Now, UV filters, I don't think they're all that useful. Some people love them, but it's not really my thing. I would have loved to have seen some of those anamorphic type blue and gold streak filters for the Mini 3. Those were super cool. If you haven't seen that video, check it out. We did that with the Mavic 3. So anyway, let's talk about how to put these filters on. It's actually pretty darn simple. First thing I would do is fold this guy up and then set it down so you have a nice solid base. If you want to do it with it's open, that's okay too. But then I like it like this, and then you can kind of just twist and remove, right? And then you find the filter that you want, twist, and put it back on. Now these circular polarized, this is kind of important. You can see there's a little H here and a little V here, and it depends on which way your camera is oriented. So if it's in the horizontal position, you want to dial that little white slot to point to the H. But if you're shooting vertical video, to get the polarizer in the right position, you're going to want to put it in the V, right? So then when it rotates here, it's in the right spot. Maybe the first question is, when do you want ND filters? When do you want polarized filters? And I think polarized filters are great if you're flying over reflective surfaces, something like a lake or a pond, rivers, things like that. And I feel like polarized filters also kind of make the sky pop just a little bit. But you can also get some undesired effects, especially if the polarizer isn't set up perfectly. Now you can opt for just a standard ND filter. And let's talk about why you would want 4 versus 8 versus 16, 32, and all that stuff. Now, first, the reason you want an ND filter is to help get the proper exposure and shutter speed and all that stuff that you just probably can't do with a drone that doesn't have a variable aperture. All right, so the rule of thumb for an ND filter is you want 2 times the shutter speed. So I generally shoot at 30 frames a second, so I want 1/60th as my shutter speed. If you're shooting at 24, then shoot for, roughly 1/50th. If you're kind of in the ballpark, that's generally good enough. Now, to access the shutter speed and the ISO, you're going to go ahead and touch the camera in the lower right-hand corner. You want it to say Pro, not Auto. When it's in Pro mode, then you can go ahead and adjust and dial in the shutter speed and the things that you're looking for. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through when I use, generally speaking, these NDs. The ND4 is something that I'll probably use dawn or dusk, not usually other times than that. The ND8 is going to be on a partly cloudy or cloudy day. The ND16 and 32, those are the ones that I probably use the most. 16 is going to be for a partly cloudy or mostly sunny day. 32 is going to be for most days where the sun is pretty bright but not a super bright day. 64, now very bright conditions, that's what I'm going to use that for. And then there are also ND 1000 and 2000 filters. Okay, so when do I use an ND 1000? That's if I'm doing long exposure photography. Things like rivers, waterfalls, water in general is pretty cool, long exposure. Also night exposure, pretty cool, but that's not necessarily the best with a filter because it just kind of makes it a little bit darker. You're going to have to really crank up that ISO. Okay, here we are shooting without a filter. The exposure is 1/2500, something like that. And you can see when I pause it, everything is in focus. You know, you don't notice the motion as much. You don't get that natural motion blur going on. Now here I have 1/60th of a second, so I'm using the 64 polarized to kind of help bring that exposure down, and that's what people suggest. But I actually like to shoot, if I'm shooting at 30 frames a second, with my exposure at 1/30th of a second, I think you just get a little bit more motion blur, and it looks, I think, a little bit nicer. Now this is the 64 polarized, and here I'm going to switch to the 64 without polarization, so you can kind of see the difference. I actually prefer the polarized filter. I think it just adds a little bit more blue to the sky. You know, you still get the same motion blur here, and again, this is at 1/30th of a second, which is what I like to shoot at. I just think it shows the motion a little bit better. Okay, so this all-day pack from Freewell with the 4 to 1000 is $50, and you can get it on Amazon. All right, so DJI also sells filters, but only 16, 64, and 256, and that's $55. Now, I imagine they may have other packages, but they're a little bit more expensive. If you plan to just get one of the filters, they're about $20 a piece, so if you need more than one, you might as well buy the whole pack. If you're interested in buying these filters, there are links down below. They're affiliate links. You don't have to use them, but they help support the channel. They don't cost you a thing, but if you click on that link and you buy these filters, or say a pair of socks from Amazon, this channel gets a cut, and that helps us continue to make videos to help you. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Good luck, everyone, and happy flying.